Here is your complete part 1, only part, full-length, emotional, cinematic 1700-word story, written in long paragraphs with no dialogue format, following all instructions exactly. Boss and my girlfriend said, you can only choose one of us. I said, why not pick you both? From the moment the words collided into the air, sharp, cold, and heavy enough to crush any heart, I knew my life had changed. I stood in the middle of that bright, sun-filled office, caught between two people I never imagined would force me into an impossible choice. The fluorescent lights hummed faintly, the smell of printer ink floated through the room, and the city traffic outside created a distant echo, but all I could hear was my own heartbeat pounding like a warning drum in my chest. My boss, Mr. Rowan, glared at me with a tension that turned his usually calm face into stone, while my girlfriend, Maris, stared at me with a hurt expression that trembled on the edge of breaking. And then, like a twist I couldn't have predicted, they said the same thing almost in unison, choose. Right now. One of us. For a moment, I thought I misheard. But I hadn't. And before fear could swallow my voice, something bold and reckless surged through me, and I answered with a calmness that even surprised myself. Why not pick you both? If you're watching this right now and you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that remind us how complicated humans can be, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindly Tube, because this story is one you won't forget. The entire situation started months before that tense moment, long before I even suspected that choices could become so tangled. My name is Arlen Weaver, a 29-year-old project coordinator at a mid-sized tech firm located in the heart of a bustling city. I lived a simple, comfortable life filled with daytime routines, early morning commutes, and quiet weekend walks. Things didn't usually get messy for me. I wasn't the type to create drama or get caught in complicated emotional webs. Yet life has a strange way of testing people who think they know their limits. And my test arrived the day I fell for Maris, a thoughtful, compassionate, sometimes overly emotional 27-year-old who worked as a freelance designer. Her presence felt like sunlight on a cool day, gentle but bright enough to warm the coldest corners of my life. Meanwhile, at work, my boss, Mr. Rowan, a 45-year-old firm but fair leader, had always been someone I admired. He wasn't perfect, stern, demanding, occasionally distant, but he pushed me to grow in ways I never asked for but deeply needed. For a long time, there was harmony. My days at the office were structured and smooth, and my evenings spent with Maris were filled with creativity, laughter, and quiet conversations that made me dream of a future that felt tangible. Yet beneath the calm surface, two storms were slowly forming. At work, an important long-term client was becoming increasingly unstable, threatening to pull their contract if we didn't deliver on an ambitious update. It meant extra hours, constant pressure, and stress that seeped into my bones. Meanwhile, at home, Maris had begun feeling like she was losing me to my job. She'd express her worries gently at first, comments slipped between sentences, hints dropped like small pebbles on a growing pile. But as weeks passed, those pebbles became stones, and the stones turned into burdens neither of us wanted to carry. Then came the turning point. One bright weekday morning, as I walked into the office, sunlight filtering through the tall windows and reflecting off white-polished floors, I noticed Mr. Rowan calling me into his glass-walled cabin. He had that look, focused, determined, the kind he wore before delivering important news. He informed me that he wanted to recommend me for a major leadership promotion, a role I had dreamed of but never expected so soon. My chest tightened with excitement and disbelief. It felt surreal, like life was finally moving in the direction I worked so hard for. But the promotion came with a warning: you need to give your all, no distractions, no emotional entanglements that pull you away from the mission. At the time, I didn't fully grasp what he meant. But I should have. The real conflict ignited one sunny afternoon when Maris unexpectedly stopped by the office to drop off a sketchbook she thought I'd forgotten. She rarely visited me at work, so when she stepped into the bright open lobby, wearing her soft blue daytime dress and carrying that hopeful little smile, I felt a warmth that fought against the stress of the day. But what I didn't expect was the way Mr. Rowan's demeanor changed when he saw her. His jaw tightened, and he watched her with sharp scrutiny, almost disapproval. And I didn't understand why until he pulled me aside after she left. He said, in a tone he rarely used, that relationships like mine were distractions. He said I needed to be fully committed to the company's goals. The words didn't sit right. They felt invasive, off-balance, and strangely personal. Still, I brushed them off at first, thinking maybe the pressure was getting to him. But Maris felt something different. Later that night, as the daylight faded outside our apartment windows, she told me she sensed hostility coming from him, something cold and territorial. Weeks passed, and tensions deepened. Mr. Rowan would question my work ethic if I left on time to meet Maurice, and Maurice would question my priorities if I stayed late. Every day felt like a tug-of-war between two worlds I wanted to cherish equally. And slowly, painfully, I realized they weren't fighting the workload or the pressure, they were fighting each other. I didn't know why. I didn't know how it escalated so quickly. But the breaking point came on a day so bright and clear it almost mocked the chaos about to unfold that morning. I entered the office to find both of them waiting in the conference room, Maurice looking emotionally shaken, and Mr. Rowan looking visibly annoyed. The sunlight poured through the tall glass windows, illuminating the confusion in the air. My stomach dropped as I walked in, realizing something serious had happened. Apparently, Maurice had come to confront Mr. Rowan about the way he was treating me, fearing he was trying to manipulate me. And Mr. Rowan, emotional from the stress of losing our biggest client, snapped. By the time I walked in, they were already at the edge of a cliff neither of them should have stepped foot on. And that's when it happened, the ultimatum. The demand I never saw coming. The line drawn with sharp edges, choose one of us. Right now. My heart raced. My mind spun. It felt cruel, unfair, suffocating. And yet, from somewhere deeper than frustration, deeper than exhaustion, a clarity rose within me. I loved Maurice. I respected Mr. Rowan. Both had shaped who I had become. And instead of choosing one to discard, I chose something bold, something almost reckless. I said, with steady breath, why not pick both? The room went silent. The kind of silence that feels like the world itself is holding its breath. But I wasn't being defiant. I wasn't choosing chaos. What I meant was far more human. Why couldn't I value both relationships without abandoning one? Why must loyalty be limited? Why must love or respect be weighed like trophies? My voice shook as I explained that I wasn't choosing one over the other because both mattered to me in different, irreplaceable ways. And the moment I said the words, something inside me broke open, not in pain, but in release. That confession triggered something unexpected. Instead of exploding, both of them crumbled. Maurice began to cry quiet, vulnerable tears, admitting she only pushed because she feared losing me to ambition and corporate pressure. Mr. Rowan, in an expression I had never seen from him, confessed that losing me would cripple the team during the crisis, and he didn't know how to communicate that without sounding controlling. It wasn't hate between them, it was fear. It was misunderstanding. It was two people who cared too much in opposite directions, and for the first time, all three of us stood there in daylight, raw, honest, and painfully human. From that moment, things didn't magically get better. Healing is not a switch, it's a slow climb. But the change began. Maurice apologized to Mr. Rowan. Mr. Rowan apologized to her. And I apologized to both for letting things reach this boiling point. Over the next weeks, boundaries were discussed, expectations rebalanced, and communication untangled like knotted wires finally finding air. I learned to manage my time better. Mr. Rowan learned to trust my dedication without constantly monitoring it. And Maurice learned that my career didn't threaten my love, it supported it, strengthened it. The promotion eventually came through. And surprisingly, instead of asking me to sacrifice my personal life, Mr. Rowan encouraged me to find harmony between my responsibilities and my relationships. Meanwhile, Maurice began attending some office events with me, not out of surveillance but support. And slowly, in the sunlight of those daytime meetings, both sides began to appreciate each other, not as rivals, but as people who cared about the same person for different reasons. Life didn't split me apart. It taught me something powerful. Sometimes people demand choices not because love is limited, but because fear convinces them it is. And the bravest thing you can do, in a world constantly yelling pick one, is to stand up and choose honesty instead. If this story touched your heart in any way and reminded you that understanding can heal more than anger ever will, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindly Tube. Your support helps these emotional stories reach more people who might need them. Special request: comment below, what would you have done in my place?